Hello, what's going on, YouTube fam? This is J Money here, and I'm bringing you guys one of the spiciest BA lists of all time. One of them. However, I do believe more people should be playing this build because it's awesome, and that is Fluffle Dino BAs, not the Sky Squirt stuff. Now, I did play that for a bit until people, just refused to play me anymore, and because nobody liked to get their hand emptied out turn one, and so I just threw in the random engine. Now, I knew people in the past played Fluffle Dinos, but there was a couple of inherent problems with it. One, you had to open either a fossil dig or an overraptor, and you just end with a conductor Tyranno, and that's it. And it wasn't really, it was kind of consistent, but you couldn't trigger overtext off the Dante mill since Dante has cost, so there was that. I wanted to it to be a complete aggro and a complete blowout turn one, to where I have such overwhelming advantage, to where there's nothing my opponent can do to where they can just come back and win, and that's exactly what I got here today. So 3 Scarm, obviously. Any BA variant, unless you're playing like the PK build, like more PKs over BAs, should probably play 3. Seer and Graph, you're not playing any BAs without these 2 cards. They're just too good. Like, Graph isn't as good anymore, because it's just so easy to access Seer or Scarm, because Scarm is at 3 copies. So yeah, there's that. Farfa's, I mean, it's freaking Farfa. Like, come on. Next we got 2 Alec and Cal Cabs. The Cal Cabs have really been coming in a lot more because a lot more people are playing more back row, like Waking the Dragons or Altergeist or something like that. I'm just seeing more back row. Alec is tried and true as well. It turns off floodgates. It turns off their Kirans and all that stuff, which I will tell you now, Altergeist is like this deck's worst matchup, at least this particular build. I'm not sure about the other builds. 1 Limbic, 1 Rubik, and 1 Limbic, 1 Barbar, and 1 Rubik. I will never play BAs without Rubik. Going into Virgil sometimes gets you there, and just reading things off the board without making a break sword to just blow up some of your cards that you don't want to blow. 2 Rhinos. Rhino is actually pretty underwhelming. I didn't think so until I took Kagna or Kogna out of my main deck, because every time this gets hit, I either already had access to Scarm or Seer, and if I didn't, it was just, I could just Beatrice it out, which half the time I didn't even need to, because generally I would use Beatrice on either a Wings on the end phase or an Overtext on the end phase and just search. The 1-of Tour Guide. I need to get her either Secret First Ed or Ulti. Alright. Now for the Dinosaurs, we got 2 Overtech, or 2 Overraptor, 2 Overtechs and 2 Dinos, as in 2 Daddios, Big Daddy. Every first turn, you look to make Beatrice in this turn 1 and have 4 to 5 cards in hand, because of the stupid Fluffles netting you insane amounts of advantage. And then by turn 2, you would have like 11 cards in hand, because you would in-phase Beatrice, detach, and double Wings for free if you didn't already have access to a second one, because you already added Bear off that first turn off the vendor. So you would just get the free draw 2. You wouldn't even discard for vendor. So you just set the vendor, just flip it over, and immediately play Wings, and you get your draw 2, your search, and then you would Beatrice, and you detach like a Dante or something, and dump a Overtext, and then Overtext would search you a pill, and then Dante would get you a card in your hand, and it was just way too much advantage by turn 2. And you still have Conductor on the board, you still have Beatrice. Like, you're probably gonna have Rhino and like 4 other BAs in hand, which at that point is a good game, because you would just summon Rhino and dump the rest of your BAs out of your hand, and make a Warlord Dragon and another Conductor, and you would just win. Next, for the Fluffle engines, or the Fluffle monsters, we just got 2 bears and 3 wings. You want the wings at 3 because you want to see it. Like, you don't necessarily want to see it, but you want to access it in some way. You preferably want to mill it with Dante. So, yeah, you maximize on that because bears mean nothing to get the vendors. If you don't have the wings, you're not getting those insane draws. Spell cards. We got, you know, just mostly speed and turbo cards. Allures. They work. Vendors. It's vendor. It's broken. It's not a hard once per turn. You hit it off of Dante turn 1 a lot, especially if you don't open that or bear. You reveal 2 BAs and special summon them both. Make Dante and play all your other deck thinning cards first, and then Dante mill. And you'd be surprised how many times you hit vendor after you've done so. Like, it really works. 2 evolution pills. Because we're playing some dinosaurs. I mean, like, you can even get an overtext off the vendor, and it'll go to the graveyard and you still search. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Reincarnations. These reincarnations actually work so much better than like a Monster Reborn ever would, because it triggers your vendors. It gets the wings out of your hand without having to discard it with vendor, and potentially losing the top card of your deck for no reason. Even though it's not like the worst, sometimes you just don't feel like doing so. Like, it pitches your Sears without you having to normal summon it. To get Dante's out if you have Beatrice on board. It just does so much than actually reborning the card on the field, because you want to trigger things from hand without discarding or normal summoning. It's amazing, and it gets your like tour guide, it gets your Overraptor out, it gets like those key non-BA pieces to your hand to where you can actually play them, and nets you infinitely more advantage. And you know, for my tech, I'm playing 2 Match Chain seconds because Darklaw is retarded. You know, Darklaw still wins games in 2018, especially if you're playing against the Sky Striker matchup or the Altergeist matchup, because they need their cards in the grave. Manifestation isn't live, Hearing isn't live, and there's just so many things that just even now just aren't live. So extra deck, we got the king of them all, the Dantes. I need to get these secrets. I'm still working on that. Waiting for the amazing Cherubini. Next we got Beatrice Pilgrim, and I'll never play any BA deck without Virgil because Virgil is awesome. And it draws you a card when it gets dealt with. Beatrice MVP, you can send any card. Sometimes you want to send Vendor if you don't have it. Sometimes you want to send Wings if you have access to Vendor already. So yeah, that works. Next, for the one of rank 3s, we're playing Breaksword because it's Breaksword. Muzzle Rhythm because I definitely do not want to play Acid Golem and rob myself of special summoning. It does the same thing. It gets over big beaters. And Leviair because, yeah, Call by the Grave is a thing, and if they banish your 1 copy of Sir, you're fucked. So you gotta play Leviair because you know Call by the Grave is a thing. So yeah. And the MVP when it comes to turns, Nightmare Sharks. Sometimes your opponent will be down to like 1200 or something, and you don't want to just keep having to bar. And so you just make this a couple times, and sometimes that alone can just win you the game. I wanted to have space for 3, but I needed to put Leviair in the moment I realized Call by the Graves were actually doing stuff. So yeah, it robs Seer of its effect, and it's just permanently banished. There's no way for me to get it back. Darklaw. It's just another win condition by itself. Especially if it's alongside of a Conductor Tyranno already, yeah, you basically won. Because nobody's playing board wipes, because a lot of decks are playing Nightmares, and, you know, Cerberus says no to all that. So, yeah. And for the links, I'm playing Underclock Decode and Burrito Dragon. I will make this like at least twice per match. Because of just how much advantage this deck nets you. It's so easy. When the moment you make this, you're pretty much gonna win the game. Now, I've played this deck quite a few times in the past, and it is yet to let me down. Like, literally the only deck this build seems to have a hard time against is Altergeist, and that is because of the things like Protocol plus Floodgates. If there's like anti-spells really kill this deck. Now, any other typical BA build, anti-spell or Imperial Order wouldn't do too much against because they have a lot more trap cards. And as you can see, I don't play any. I don't play any trap cards. It's pure speed, turbo, completely control the board turn 1, and then turn 2 just game your opponent. Just go for game. That's how it works. I mean, that's just me. I just like comboing out. I like any deck that can just, or any variant that lets me just combo the hell off. So, just call me a little bit biased, but this is what the side deck's for. Now, for the side deck, I only have 12 side deck because that's really all you need. All you need is 12 side deck. Especially in this format, you need Drolls because it's fucking Droll and Lockbird. Cranes because you need more recursion, more Dantes, and you know this would be Crane is also an excellent way to make Cherubini if we ever get it. So yeah. And for the last few cards, we got Travelers, Fire Lake, Cogna, and a Good and Evil because side deck. I will switch to a more control kind of thing. I would keep the Fluffle engine in because speed is awesome. Depending on the matchup, I might take the Fluffle engine out and leave the Dino engine in. And that's the thing. When it comes to siding, like you know which engine is better in that particular matchup. Whether I need to desperately get to these cards, I will play the Fluffle engine. But if I'm just looking to just have more control for the longevity game, then I would keep the Dino engine in and all that good stuff, and play Fire Lakes and Travelers because these cards are still really freaking good. Now, I have not played Sky Strikers with this deck quite yet. And I know Altergeist, they like their Floodgates and stuff, so this easily takes care of it. They're not going to see it coming. Simply because I don't play any traps in the main deck. And they, really I won't side these until game 3s. Because game 1 I have a somewhat of an acute advantage. In game 2 I won't side them in because I don't want to give them a reason to side. Reboot or, well, they're not going to play Reboot because they play Altergeist. I don't want to give them a reason to play like wiretaps or any of that. Within game 2, go through a few Dantes, go through a few mills so I can give them some false information that I'm not playing traps. Side these in game 3 and just steamroll my opponent. Now, there are 2 sets of cards that I would play if I wanted to play 15. And that would either be Twin Twisters for more backroom removal, because this deck does not struggle with monsters, or a playset of Soul Release. For those of you who don't know, I've played against Brandish quite a few times with other decks, and I noticed that the moment your opponent gets 3 spells on the grave, that's when the situation gets more and more unwinnable as turns go by, because you're basically just playing cards for no reason, and whatever you're doing, they're just plussing off of it, or they're going net 0 off of it, and the cards that they're getting back is just netting them more pluses anyway. And so I was thinking, I'll just play Soul Releases and continuously banish the spells out of the graveyard so they have to continuously reset. And this is especially helpful if they play Fortress base, which they all do, because you can go through your extra deck pretty fast. And if you're banishing like 2 copies of Kagari and 1 copy of Shizuku at a time off the Soul Release, it hurts. If you can stop them from continuously summoning that shit out, you would be in a good spot. So I would recommend Soul Release, or if I'm playing a deck that wants to mill like 60 card because it's still good, I would play Fiend Comedian. I'm not going to go into detail what that is. People, you can look it up. It's a trap card that's a blowout either way if you want to mill. You just toss a coin, you toss a coin, call heads or tails. If you call it wrong, you mill cards from your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of total cards in your opponent's graveyard. So it's like a pseudo version of grass if your opponent has a big grave, or a pretty sizable grave. And it is a, but if you call it right, you banish your opponent's entire graveyard. So it's a blowout either way. You're either getting advantage off of calling it wrong, or you blow your opponent out by calling it right. Against the Skyscraper matchup, you want to call it right. Against other matchups like BA and all that, you really want to call it wrong so you can go ahead and get your mills off and all that. But let me know what you guys think about this deck list and all that. I enjoy pure speed and, like, just control for the turn. Like, you don't need to completely control the entire game for the entire time. You just need to control it long enough for you to just go for game and kill your opponent. And that's all. Well, that's just me. I like to just combo, and all that stuff. So, what you guys think about this deck list? Do you think it's alright? Would you guys be interested in trying it out? It's a different take on BA. Again, I was playing the Sky Scourge build, but people would refuse to play me if I kept it in. So I just threw in a Dino engine just to see how it would do it, and I found something great. So, thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money, and I am signing out.